Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 5:30 p.m. Monday, February 8th, 2021. I'm calling this meeting of the Paris City Council to order. The invocation will be given tonight by Mr. Gene Anderson, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Mayor Pro Tem Ms. Portugal. Everyone please stand.
May we pray. Heavenly Father, as always, we're thankful for all your many blessings. We thank you for your guidance and direction. Father, we thank you for our city, and we thank you for these men and women tonight, Father, who sit on our council, who are voluntarily serving, Father, using their skills and talents to make this a better place for us to live. We just pray you guide and direct them tonight, and Father, we just ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next is the Citizens Forum. Persons desiring to address the council must limit their presentation to no more than 2 minutes. Unless an item is posted on the agenda, the Texas Open Meetings Act prohibits the council from responding to any comments other than to refer the matter to a future agenda, to an existing policy, or to a staff person with specific factual information. Claims against the city, council members, or employees, as well as individual personal appeals, are not appropriate for Citizens Forum. And tonight, anyone who wishes to address the public on any item, please come up during Citizens Forum. There aren't any public discussions on any of the other items, so if you want to talk about anything, now is the time to do it. Anyone wishing to address the council, please step up, give us your name and address. You'll have at least 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Latrell Lacey. I'm a citizen on West Houston Street here in Paris. I know you have...
Speak into the microphone. We're having a hard time
Can I
understanding.
touch it and pull it down?
Yes, please. Go ahead. Please do.
And I can pull this down?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Please. While you're speaking, that's perfectly fine.
It's easier for me to
Yeah.
Okay.
And give us your name and address again, because we couldn't understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Latrell Lacey. I live on West Houston Street in Paris.
Okay, thank you.
So I was wanting to ask some questions regarding the White Unity Rally that you guys have listed on the agenda, and I was going to ask those questions during that time, but it sounds like we're not going to have questions during
Go ahead and
that
ask
time.
them right now if you have
yeah.
it. It is on the agenda,
Okay.
so we can respond to it, and I won't
Okay.
hold you to 2 minutes.
Okay, so do we know if there's any specific location or property owner known by the city? I know that you probably can't let that information out if you do know.
I'm not aware that anybody knows.
Okay, so is there any investigation being done about trying to find that information out?
I'm not aware of that either, unless city manager might be able to say something. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead and
I
ask.
was inquiring about if there's any investigation into the location or property owner for the White Unity Rally.
The KKK.
Yeah, the KKK.
No, we're still investigating.
Right. I understand it's not until October.
Outside city limits, so our jurisdiction is exceeded at this point.
Right, right. So I understand that this could be outside of city limits. I've heard that also. So I don't know if maybe anybody's considered working with other local city municipalities and actually narrowing this down, because the people surrounding that area need to be prepared for something like this that might occur. It's just safe for them to know as well if, their neighbor is actually holding a White Unity Rally. I think they need to know that, and I would like to know that as well. Like I said, the local municipalities should probably come together on this situation because they are a terrorist organization. And so we need to use this opportunity as a city to change the narrative of our racial history. And we do have, even currently in workplaces and things like that, and, big court issues has come up from racial issues. And this is an opportunity for our community to say, hey, we are not going to be a city that, the KKK looks at and says, hey, Paris is a good place. Let's put Paris on our flyer. And I know you guys may be asking them to remove that, but in the first place, they felt comfortable coming here. They felt comfortable putting Paris, Texas on that flyer. This is an opportunity where you can educate the community members and maybe acknowledge our past, uplift our Black community, acknowledge our history, maybe host an educational event regarding what happened back here in the 1900s, and coming up front with it and saying, hey, this happened in the past and we're not okay with these people coming here now. we're going to change the narrative of what Paris, Texas means. And I implore you to do that. And of course, myself, anybody else that I work with, we are definitely willing to help you out with that area. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Taisley. I also live on West Houston. So I understand that the city council today intends to address the KKK rally that's going to take place on October 9th outside of city limits. I actually was one of the first people to figure out that that was happening. Unfortunately, I guess others were not aware. I would like to address some concerns that I have with this issue. To be clear, disassociating ourselves with the KKK is not enough. Asking that they take Paris, Texas off their promotional materials is not enough. If we really want to resolve the issue, then we have to look a little deeper, much deeper, actually. I would like to ask, what have we all actively done to help restore the issue? What have we done to help find a resolution with the racial issues that happen in Paris? And unfortunately, a lot of people say, what racism? That in itself is a problem. The fact that people can ask what racism when it's happening right here in front of us every day in our community. And if you can't look in your own community and see the clear racial tensions, then you're intentionally choosing to ignore it. And if that's so, then either A, you just don't care because it doesn't affect you, or B, you're somehow gaining something from it, right? So I believe that if we actually want to resolve those issues, we really need to take a deeper look at it, have deeper conversations as to why the KKK felt comfortable coming here. The KKK did not just suddenly decide, oh, Paris, Texas, just randomly on a map, that's where I'm going to go to. This was not coincidence. This was not bad luck. We have a deep racial history that we have chosen to ignore, to cast to the wayside. Our community has actively denied that racism exists in our community, despite very clear evidence of it. Spend 5 seconds on any Paris News, Paris, Texas article of any sort, and you will find it clear in front of you. Our Black community members have said there's racism here, that it exists, and we look at them and we tell them that they're wrong. That no, racism is not here. We tell them that their stories and their experiences are incorrect and that they can't possibly be true. So let's not also ignore the fact that some of our own community members have established correspondence with the KKK and have asked them to come here. This was not a sudden decision. One of our own community members said, hey guys, come sit on my property and camp out and let us have this here. So do not be confused by the fact the KKK is already here. They have been living here. They are shopping in our grocery stores. They're going to our churches. And some of them are even teaching our children. So before we are so quick to dissociate ourselves with the KKK, maybe we should start with ourselves and address the racial issues that are happening in front of us that led the KKK to believe that they were comfortable here, that this was going to be a perfect location. So I know that we all have a lot of work to do, and I hope that our city council will also encourage our community to have deeper conversations and to not do something generic and to just wipe it under the rug.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to address the council, please step forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Yeah, I only have 6 of them. I'm Talisha Ross. Go by Ty. I'll give you my company's address, 3150 Clarksville Street, Special Health Resource, Paris Care Clinic, and the Pediatric Clinic of Paris. Today I have me here with me. I have Jacqueline with Signature ER, and I have Shamika with SLC Solutions. So to piggyback off of what the young ladies just spoke about, we have actually been wanting to bring unity in this community. And I work at a healthcare facility that focuses on the underserved in this community. We take everything from Medicaid, Medicare, self-pay, sliding scale. With 2020 being the type of year it has been, the mental health is very important, but also too, people having the access to good, affordable health care. So we are wanting to present to you guys this evening and possibly later on to get it approved. We are tentatively wanting to put on a date, April the 30th, for a community health fair. We have teamed with United Way. We also have teamed with ARCLA, Tex Council Government. They have said that they provide transportation to this event. We would like to host the event at the Love Civic Center outdoors to adhere to COVID guidelines. The whole purpose of this is to unify the medical need from the Black, we'll say the minority side, or just people that's underserved, period, because it's just not Black people. But we want to bring West Paris, and we want them to feel love like any other location. It's weird that these young ladies were speaking on that, because I didn't even know that was on the agenda today. So one of the things we want to do is push the issue of bringing a community health fair that focuses on healthcare for all.
Okay.
Anybody want to say anything?
Anybody else you want to talk? There's 4 of you, so go ahead. You may hear.
So, hey everyone, I'm here, Pankaj. I live on 3055 Oak Creek Drive, and I think that in general, this is something that is huge. I think that we can all agree on that healthcare is something that we all deserve and that we all want to, be a part of. And it doesn't matter your socioeconomic background. We really need to work on that as a community. And so, this is a great venture that the United Way is putting together in accordance with a lot of other organizations, and we're really excited to have this. And this is the first time doing this, but we hope that this can grow and be an annual program, and that everyone can come out to it, and not just folks that need healthcare. I mean, we want to be able to teach folks how to save money. I mean, anything at all. I mean, we want to be able to help each other. So I think that this is an important issue, and it's not a political issue. It's one of those issues that's a community issue, and we should all work together. So thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else wish to address the council? Seeing none, I will close the Citizens Forum. And I'd like to move an item up, if we might, the item number 15 about the city manager's appointment of Mr. Salter as chief of police. I'd like to move that up right now. So there might be some people that want to get out of the speak and then leave. So I make a motion to move item 15 up to the, well, actually, we have to go to the consent agenda first. I apologize. Let's go to consent agenda first. Does anyone have anything on the consent agenda that he or she wishes to pull for additional discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion on that.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Motion for accept the consent.
Second.
And a second. All in favor? Unanimous. So, and I make a motion, we move item number 15 up for the next, to be next discussed.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Okay, item 15, discuss and approve the confirmation of the city manager's appointment of Richard Salter as chief of police pursuant to Texas Local Government Code 143.013A1. Mr. Path.
I apologize for the mask. I have to wear it at this point, so I'll try to speak loud, and I may have to take breaths along the way. So, all right. As you know, I was tasked with pursuing a new chief of police, and so this last about 4 months ago, we worked through a process working with the Texas Police Chief Association. We contacted with them to advise us as we worked through the process, and so we put out advertising. We had over 30 applications. We went through 4 rounds. We did some written essays. We did an in-person interview with a visiting chief of police panel that includes the chief of police of Tyler, Kilgore, and Marshall, as well as the TPCA representative, retired chief of police Gary Johnson. We did a Zoom interview following that for round 3. And then we did the community panel interview here a couple weeks ago, where we did in person in this room here. We had a community panel sitting where you're sitting, and we broadcasted it over the feed. I think we had almost 2,500 views of that, which is outstanding. And I had a number of comments back from that. And so with all that, I took all the input. I took the advice from the TPCA, from my interview team, from the community panel, from the input from the community themselves. Looked at the job description and put it all together. And so it is my duty to present to you a candidate, and I have selected one. I am very pleased to present to you Richard W. Salter Jr., who's to my left. He is the recently retired special agent in charge of the DEA office in Omaha, Nebraska. We oversaw over 5 different states of DEA offices. I'm very impressed with his credentials. I'm very impressed with his background, his experience. He meets our job description very well. Very qualified. What he has done in the past. What he brings to this department here is just excitement. And so from his energy, his experience, his knowledge, his background, I think he's going to do a great thing for our community, for our department, for our staff, for my executive team. And I know he will do a great job for you as your chief of police and do a great job for the community here. So Tonight, subject to Section 23 of the Charter, I do have to present my appointment to you for approval or denial. And then with this, we have a resolution, if approved, since this is a civil service department, we have to confirm it by resolution in order to be current with the statutes on that. So with that, I will entertain any questions. I can turn to Mr. Salter as well to answer questions. Otherwise, I think he's got a little thing he wants to say as well, and go from there. Thank you.
Okay, any council members have any questions of Mr. Path regarding his appointment?
Hi, I'm Renee. Sometimes you have to watch and look at things twice before you can get an understanding, and I had to watch the interview twice. Getting phone calls and emails from different people. All I want is, I love the city of Paris, okay? This is my home. And I charge you to take charge of our city and getting it. I know you heard some of the issues earlier that was being spoken about. We do have issues. We're not a perfect town. We make mistakes, and we got things that we've got to work on. And if you are selected tonight, you got your job, work to do. So some of the interview that I listened to the first time, I guess I got a misunderstanding because Grayson, I respect Grayson, and if he feels like that you are the person for our city and our community to represent us in the law enforcement, I support Grayson. He hasn't led us astray, and I do admit that one of the things that you said at the ending about reaching out to the black pastors and we want to focus on the high-risk kids, I took that wrong because that happened to me before because I misspoke on something, and Grayson took me for my word and said, Renee, I know you didn't mean it like that. So I want to say that you have my support tonight. I know that you have the experience, and we're probably a little different from where you came from or where you retired from, but I'm looking forward to. Kids are my passion. I love the Boys and Girls Club. That's my passion. So anytime that the police force want to work with the kids, work with the Boys and Girls Club, I'll be one of the first ones that you can contact to be a part of that event, of anything that you decide to do with the kids in the community.
Thank you, and kids are my passion too. And I've spoke all over the state of Oklahoma for 7 years, and it all came back to the kids because you can't change hearts and minds of people that are. It's harder to change hearts and minds of people that are older, but you talk to the kids, and they're sponges, and that's where we focus. That's where I have focused a lot of my career.
Thank you.
Now, do we want to? You go ahead and ask any questions you want, or I know Mr. Salter may have a statement he wants to make. If you want, we can hear his statement first. Would you?
I'd rather let him speak first.
Okay, Mr. Salter, if you have a statement, why don't you speak to the council, and then we'll ask some questions after that.
Okay, I really just wanted to introduce myself. I don't know, whether you guys know any of my past, any of my history, and I'll be brief. But I had this is, 34 years in law enforcement at the state, local, and federal level, and the last 29 and a half years has been with the DEA. I think I moved up, I promoted up through the ranks as high as I could go, and the bottom line is I loved my job. I love being in law enforcement, and it's my passion. And so, I've served, I grew up in San Antonio, I'm a Texan, and I was a policeman there, and then I moved from in DEA. I went to Houston, San Antonio, Little Rock, Arkansas, where I served there, and then I went to Washington, D.C. for 5 years, then came back to Oklahoma for 7 years. So most of my time has been this area. Oklahoma, I know it very well. Arkansas, I know it very well. All my family's from Louisiana, is just to the southeast. So that's my background. I retired January 15th. I was going to retire anyway. You age out in DEA. They gave me an extra year, and I was appreciative of that. So, like I said in my interview, I'm too old for DEA, and I'm too young to retire. And I do love this profession. I believe this is a noble profession, and right now it's challenging. And I think that I can bring something to that. I think that, I look forward to it. And I want to thank the city manager. You guys have a great city manager here. I've been around a little bit, and I want to thank him and Sandy Collard for their patience, because at the same time I was going through an interview process, I was also trying to retire. And you only get to retire once or twice, so it's not that easy. And I want to thank the city council, city leaders for your confidence. I hope I earn your trust. I know I will earn your trust. I really appreciate what the young ladies were saying earlier today, or earlier just a few minutes ago. There's no place in this world for hate groups. I don't care where they come from. Hate groups are hate groups, and we gotta extinguish them. So consider me a partner there. I'll do everything we can, and I don't know that you can stop them legally, but you don't have to give them any attention if that's what they want. And with that, that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any? I'll open up for more questions from the council to Mr. Salter or Mr. Path, either one.
You gonna go in line or what?
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Just go ahead.
First of all, I want to say, Grayson, I do really appreciate your effort and what it took for us to get to this place that we are now. I know it wasn't easy for you. I too will support and trust your judgment. We talked about it over the weekend, and I was getting phone calls about different things, but then I had to sit down and again look at the interview process myself, and listen word for word for what Mr. Salter had to say about things. So sometimes you get a phone call on things and you don't get it verbatim, and then when you go look at it, then you say, okay, maybe he meant it a different way. We do have a lot of at-risk youth in Paris, and I don't want to just particularly keep them on one side of town or the other. So with that being said, Mr. Salter, I looked at your interview and I read your applications, and you mentioned about mentorship and a lot of them, and you mentioned as well about interacting with the youth at school systems. Mm-hmm. But are you familiar with the Boys and Girls Club systems throughout the?
I was in the Boys Club growing up. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Okay, so what manner would you want to incorporate the mentorship at the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the schools? I don't want to leave the schools out.
No. Everywhere there's kids, at-risk kids. It's finding out who the at-risk kids are and be able to target them, or give them special attention. But it's really just communicating on big things, drugs. Communicating with them about drugs, about what's going on in the community, because they hear a narrative from the media, from their friends, and when you bring in mentors, and mentors are extremely important because it shows a kid that's really in a bad place. Maybe he's got a bad family, maybe he doesn't have a father. It shows them another way. It shows them a path that they may not have considered that they had before. And those mentorships work. And my goal will be, of course, I can't mentor all of them, but my goal will be to incentivize the police department, the officers, to do that. And as a chief, I can do that, whether it's giving them extra days off or finding a way to incentivize that to where they can get out there and do that. And once you get it started, it usually takes on a life of its own. But that's what I would try to do with Boys and Girls Club. Any organization where we think we can reach out and touch at-risk kids.
And we want to make sure we understand, we're just not looking at risk kids. We want all the youth
Absolutely.
as best we can.
Yeah, we talked to all of them.
The mentorship program took a liking to me because I 30 years in the military, we had the mentor program. So you have young men and women that are on track that need mentorship for just making the important decisions, and then you have some that are not on track. Then the mentorship program allowed them to get back on track and move forward. So I understand where you're coming from with that, and I agree with that system. So you have a program to be able to interact with the citizens of each community. I think that would be big.
Absolutely. Community engagement is the future for law enforcement, and the changes are going to happen. Hopefully, we make the changes at the local level, and they're not forced on us from Main Justice and DC. I think I said in my interview, problems are created at the local level, and the solutions are the best at the local level. And community engagement is going to be huge. It's just a matter of putting together the strategies and being able to reach out and touch as many people as you can with whatever organization, whether it's churches, civic groups, whatever it might be, just to be able to reach out and touch as many people as you can.
That's all I have.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Salters.
Good evening.
Grayson, good to see you here. Now, I'm not going to re-interview you. I'm just going to make some statements, and you can comment at the end if you want to. My main concern, and I only saw one interview. I give you that. I only saw one interview, and I too trust Grayson's opinion. I think his judgment is, you know, we talked, so I think his judgment is great. But at the same time, Grayson hadn't been in Paris, Texas long. So experience is the best key to, you know, to know what a city wants. He hadn't been here long at all. So with that being said, I had some concerns during that one interview piece that I saw. One of the main concerns was you never said much about your relationship with your subordinates, with the officers up under you. You didn't come out with a lot of programs and things that to level them up to the standard that you would have them to be. I like what you just answered to Councilman Hughes about incentivizing the officers to do things. Or I know you can't make them do those things in the community, but you can kind of offer incentives, and you did mention that in your interview. So I like that, but man, it was a lot of intelligence type things. You know, it was almost like when I'm looking at the interview and I know what Paris, Texas needs because I've been here for forever, it made it seem like you wasn't a great fit. It made it seem like, you know, you talked about a lot about drugs, gangs, Mexican mafia, you know, all of that type of stuff, and things that didn't really apply with us, but drugs do, but so does a lot of other things. But it seemed like 90% of your interview was about drugs. And I've talked to community members, former cops, cops now, not just in Paris, but other places, and they saw the same thing. So I don't want to, you know, I'm not an expert cop. I've never been a cop, but so I want to talk to cops and see what they think. And it just kind of hit me the wrong way as far as what Paris, Texas needs. And considering the racial divide all over the country, and Paris, Texas is no exception, you know, I guess I just didn't see that community relations side. I just didn't see it. And that's just me. But at the same time, it's like all of the councilmen probably will say the same thing, that we trust Grayson's judgment. And not only Grayson, because we had a point, you know, we appointed people to be on the committee that interviewed you. And that committee, the group, had been here for years. So we do, coupled with Grayson and them, we do trust their judgment. We trust their judgment. But I'm just speaking for myself. I want to get this out. I want to say it. I'm not the type of person that's just going to go along with everything and not say anything against it when I know that I might see something wrong, and I hope I'm totally wrong. I hope you come in and be great. I hope the officers love you. I hope the community embraces you and love you. I too work with you, try to bridge the gap with the former chief, because, and I'm going to answer your question, Taisley, what are we doing to bridge the gap? We have to start with the young people, because that's where all across the nation, that's where the issues are. Cops, kids, especially, what am I trying to say? Especially the minority kids, especially the minority youth. There's an issue there. And I used to tell Chief Huntley this, it's not if it happens, it's when, because it's gonna happen. And we saw last year it happened. So, you know, we have to address these things now. And you'll see if you get this job, I will be in your ear. Not because I'm on the city council, but because I live in Paris, Texas. And I'm concerned about our community, and I'm concerned about these minority youths, and I'm concerned, I hear it a lot, believe me, and I'm concerned about the way that they're treated by police officers, because in this small city, the police chief is huge. And in this small city, the officers that run these streets every day are huge. So if they just stop, spend a little time with you. We had a program where they did come to the Boys and Girls Club on weekends to ball games, and man, it was such a huge success that the officers started enjoying it so much. I started thinking, well, I'm going to get them in trouble with the chief because they're spending too much time here. That's how much they started enjoying things. And you know, if we just invite, send, and get in the mix of everything, then I think we would make a world of difference in the relationship with police and our youth. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to re-interview you, and I can't tell you how to do your job, but I do represent some constituents, and I do want to express what they feel. And I want to do it now, so I won't have to do it again.
And I appreciate that. I will never know Paris, Texas as well as you do, as well as the people that grew up here. I'll do my best, but that's why I'll be in your ear too. I hope that there's a constant dialogue. It's like I said in my interview, when police officers dealing with the public, and it's not just minority youth, it's all youth. There's at-risk kids, there's kids that need things, and so I believe that our community engagement is going to be, and I don't know what it is now, I can't say anything negative, but it'll be the key to improving relations. And I'm just going to look for every avenue to do that. And anyone in the community that has concerns, I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen because that's how you identify problems, because you can't solve a problem unless you can fully identify it. You can't hit around it. You got to know what the problem is. You got to have conversation with people that understand the problem, and then you come up with solutions, the options to solve, and to address those. So, I said in my interview, policemen should, every interaction with a cop, he should be treating that person like that's their mother, that's their sister, that's their brother. That's the way officers should treat people. And I've been a cop a long time. I'd say 99.9% of the cops are good. I've worked in departments where we have had a bad apple. We have a bad apple come into an apartment, and we get rid of them. We get rid of them internally, peer pressure, and they just don't feel comfortable. So I don't know this department yet. I will get to know this department, but and that'll be my mantra is treat people the way you want people to treat your mother.
And let me just say this, and then I'll be through. I didn't like that answer either, and I didn't like it when you said it in the interview, that we would, with peer pressure, and we will push them out. No, it needs to be, because of the rules, because they're doing something wrong, they need to be fired because they're doing something wrong, not because peer pressure pushes them out. That's what we're counting on to happen with this KKK thing. Oh, everybody, peer pressure will push them out. No, if they're doing something wrong, if they're illegal, then it needs to be dealt with, not peer pressure and making it uncomfortable, pushing them out.
No, I understand, and that's at the management level, absolutely. But I'm just saying, at the worker level, that happens, that occurs. Not that that's how we'll deal with it. That happens at the working level when you have a good department. But at the management level, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, you fire them, you get rid of them.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. Savage?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Portugal, go ahead.
Welcome, Mr. Salter. You were my first pick in just looking at the resumes, and so I was pleased when Grayson said that he had chosen you. I think it's an appropriate time. I wouldn't say this normally, but with the discussion of the hate groups and our local racism and relationships with the police, I would say that I was stunned on January 6th to find that there were police and military people at the Capitol who were breaking the law, and that I would hope if you found anything like that in your department, and I've not heard anything like that, but I would hope you would cut that cancer out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Civil, and it's not allowed.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mr. Path, I would just like to commend you very much on the process that you used to find Mr. Sadler. I thought that having it available for everybody to watch was very important because it gave everyone in our community opportunity to participate. And to me, that's very important. A lot of things that we do doesn't give the community an opportunity to participate, and opportunity is very important to me. So I commend you on the process, and thank you, Mr. Sadler, and welcome to Paris. And I hope that we're able to affect change. Some change in our community, and hopefully through your leadership and through all of our support of you in your position, that we're going to be able to do just that. So thank you both, especially you, Mr. Path, because I thought this whole process was just absolutely commendable.
Thank you. Had a lot of people came together to help me make that happen, so thank you.
Oh, and one other thing too, I really appreciated the comments from my fellow council members as well. One of us spoke over the weekend. We spoke considerably over the weekend, and it gave us an opportunity too to see another side of each other, and to comment and get to know each other a whole lot. And even tonight, I got an opportunity also to get to know some of you a little bit better, another dimension of you. So I really liked this process. I liked it a whole lot.
Grayson, again, really appreciate the format. You brought this idea forward. I was really the first time I've ever even thought, I would have never thought about it. So thank you again. It takes a lot of work to get those groups of people put together and all in the same place at the same time and get them actively trying to put together questions and actually try. And that's a huge thing in today's world, especially with everybody's busy and COVID and carrying on. So thank you for that. And is it Richard Salter,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Salter.
Sorry.
That's all right. I've been called a lot of things.
Thank you for applying. Thank you for answering your questions. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect either. You're closer than I am probably. I hope and pray that you lead our community. You've got a big undertaking, and I think you'll be very successful with your training and your background and your experience. You were definitely my pick out of the three. We had three extremely qualified candidates, and you were the most qualified. I echo what Councilwoman Stone said. We've got youth, and the Boys and Girls Club is a good starting place. There's some other organizations. The Boy Scouts is a big organization in this community that we want to hook up with you for sure on some stuff to do when you get settled. By no means are we in a hurry, but there's some other organizations and some other church-run organizations, both white, black, Hispanic, every race involved. There's a lot of youth that are not even at risk, they need to know their police officers that maybe aren't at risk, that would keep them out of some trouble and keep all of us a little safer. Mm-hmm. I think that, and we've got a community that is ever changing, ever growing, and in my opinion, getting better every day. There's a lot of news stories about how bad everything is, and everything, Paris, in my opinion, is more diverse than we've been in the last several years. And we're getting better. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. But I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you. You've got my full support. If I can ever do anything, you call me directly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I get to go last. I want to thank all the council members for your comments and concerns and being very open about them. And I actually agree with most everything I heard tonight. I agree with Ms. Stone that you need to work with the youth and Mr. Hughes. I agree with Mr. Savage that you'll never know the community as well as I was born here, by the way. Yes, was my wife. And I'm going on 65 years old, so I've been here a long time. And yeah, it's very, very important to work with the people that know the community. And I think you're the man for the job. I had a little statement I was going to read. I'll say I watched the interviews of the three finalists for the position of Paris Police Chief, and I was impressed really with all three of them. I firmly believe any of the three would have been excellent choices for the city. And I want to compliment Mr. Path for the selection process that produced three high-quality applicants and really gave the community the opportunity to participate in the selection. It had never been done before, okay? I had already made the decision to support you, whoever you decided, and you've researched the candidates more thoroughly than any of us have, and you know a lot of information that isn't public, and that has also gone into your decision. I know you've got the law enforcement people and community members that have advised you on this, And even though I was going to support you, after I saw the video, I was immediately convinced that Mr. Salter, certainly in my opinion, was the best of the three. That's not to say anything against the other two. I like them very well as well. But I was really impressed with your knowledge, experience, professionalism, and you know, and the way you carried yourself. The most of the people I've spoken with were strongly supportive of you. I came away thinking, if I were a police officer, who would I want to be under? Who would I want to be my boss? And I kind of felt like it was you. Okay, I felt like you would be the guy that would give me the feeling that I was important, I was included, and that I had a boss who had morals and values that I could pattern myself after. So I really think that the Paris Police Department, led by you, will help prevent crime by partnering with the community, as you said you will, and local organizations and local schools, as you said you will, to help address really the root causes of crime rather than deal with it after the fact. Prevent a crime is a whole lot better than arresting somebody. So it's with great pleasure that I support you for our next police chief.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Mayor, could I say one more?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please do. Anybody else?
Chief Tuttle, you in there? I want to take this opportunity to thank Chief Tuttle for holding the position of interim chief during this process. So, job well done, Chief, and to you and your team.
I echo that, yeah. Yeah, I really do appreciate it, Chief. You've always been there. I could call you, and I have many times, so. Okay, any more comments from any council member before we vote? All right, well, I'll make a motion that we confirm Mr. Path's nomination of Mr. Richard Salter for Paris Police Chief.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? And it's unanimous. Congratulations, sir, and welcome to Paris.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all. I will now have to exit the meeting. So.
Okay. All right. Next item, number 13, consider and take action on a resolution directing that notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation to finance construction of a wastewater treatment plant be posted to the city website and published in a newspaper circulated within the city, and approving all matters pertaining thereto. Gene?
At our last meeting, the council directed the staff to prepare a resolution to do just that, to publish our intention to issue these COs. Mark McLiney with Samco, who's our financial advisors, is here tonight, and I want to ask him to come up and we'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mark McLiney, Samco Capital Markets. I work with the city when we borrow money. Today is the first legal step in the issuance process. This is the time that we give notice to your voters. So if you authorize the resolution today, the resolution gets published in the newspaper 2 weeks in a row and put on your website immediately. With that, we're notifying your voters, giving them the opportunity, if they so feel, to petition you to take this to a bond election. We don't think that's something that will happen because this is not reflective on your tax rate. I would like to commend, I'd also like to say, Gene, with Grayson, with Doug, your engineers. This has been a very long process and very thorough on determining the best path forward. And as the outsider working with them, very impressed how professionally it was taken, how it went back to council prior to this step, and everything was back and forth, trying to find the best path and most cost-effective path for the city. So that's kind of the background where we are. Today, again, is only the notice of intention resolution. It states that we're going to proceed on April 12th. That's the date we would, in theory, sell those at your direction. You are not authorizing borrowing today. You're authorizing giving notice to your voters, to your citizens. We come back on April 12th with final interest rates. Only at that point would you all authorize an ordinance issuing that debt. At that point, we can't turn back. Anytime between now and then, you have not issued anything and you can change your mind. So this is, again, legal authorization to move forward to a sale on April 12th if a petition is not presented to you all at that meeting. I'm going to address any questions that you may have.
What's the time frame on the next step after this one?
It's, oh, you mean the next future bond issue? The
Yeah,
follow-
what's the time frame on actually issuing the bonds?
It will occur April 12th.
Okay.
So from today, you're not only notifying your voters and your citizens, you're really authorizing us and Gene and Grayson to proceed with bond ratings, putting together offering documents, getting bond purchasers, so we know what the final interest rate when we're back here presenting it to you. So at that point, we will know what your annual bond payment would be. We believe all the numbers that we've run have been conservatively run, so we're going to beat that. But at that point is when we'll actually sell.
I just wanted to see if I could be on the council when it happens. If it's in
You're
April,
still here.
If it's in April, I'll still be there.
Yes.
Term limits are going to get me. Okay, any questions? Anybody have any questions?
I'd just like to comment that that was an excellent presentation because I think even the audience could hear you. And we have so many speakers, we can't hear, and the audience especially can't. Thank you.
My wife thinks I talk too loud, so.
That's
That's a
your
good
teacher
thing.
voice.
All right, if there's no further questions, I'll entertain a motion on this.
I'll make a motion, we accept the ordinance amending section 3423.
This has been a notice of intention resolution.
Oh, 13, okay. Resolution directing the notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
In 2 seconds, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
We'll go to work with staff. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 14, discuss and act on an ordinance amending section 34-23A sewer rates for customers using city water of chapter 34 of the Code and Ordinances of the City of Paris, Texas, to reflect changes recommended by the city's rate consultant, providing a repealer clause, a severability clause, a savings clause, a penalty clause, and providing for an effective date. Gene?
Also, at our last council meeting, we provided 3 different rate increase options that would be sufficient to fund the COs that we've just been talking about if you decide to issue them. It was the council's choice to go with the semi-annual rate increase option, which was option 3 of the 3 we presented. So we're coming tonight with an ordinance that will implement those semi-annual rates. It won't go into effect until April because we're not going to issue the COs until April. So it's synced up with that issue. If for some reason you don't issue them, we can certainly undo, what this ordinance says.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Anderson? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Make a motion to accept the semi-annual rate increases as described by Mr. Anderson to reflect amending the section 34-23A sewer rates for customers using city water of the chapter 34 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paris.
Second.
Motion and a second by Mr. Hughes. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Item number 16, discuss and appoint 1 member to the Traffic Commission and 1 member to the Library Advisory Board. Ms. Ellis?
Okay, we still had 1 vacancy on the Traffic Commission. We didn't have enough to fill that position this summer. And since that time, we've had a Library Advisory Board member resign. We've advertised and we have received an application for each of the boards. So I'm recommending Lloyd Fry to fill the Traffic Commission and Myers Hurt to fill the Library Advisory Board. They're both qualified applicants.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
Hey, when we go back and re-advertise, like situations like this, do we go through advertise it on the same venues as?
Yes,
Okay.
I send it to all of the media that we have.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions? Yeah, I always like to see these get advertised, and I don't know if there's any way we can do it. Maybe just people aren't interested, but I'd love to
Yeah.
have a little more interest on our committees.
I would too.
And, I don't know, I guess it's on the city website potentially,
Yeah,
but
and-
people don't go there anyway, so probably the local media are good.
Yeah, I mean, we send it to the Facebook groups, we send it to Paris News. Mary is like, I have her own speed dial as well as, she comes up first on email. So-
All right. Well, then I guess I'll make a motion, we appoint Lloyd Fry to fill the vacant position on the Traffic Commission, and also does that have to be separate motion, Stephanie? Okay, and also to appoint Myers Hurt to fill the vacant position on the Library Advisory Board.
Second.
Got a second from Mr. Hughes, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 17, discuss and act on a resolution regarding the, quote, White Unity Conference, quote, set schedule for October 9th, 2021. Ms. Harris.
Well, we've talked about this a lot this evening, and I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that there was an online advertisement for a White Unity Conference to be held. The advertisement said in Paris, Texas. Media reports indicate that this is not actually in Paris, Texas, but outside the city limits on private property. The KKK is probably the ground zero hate group in the United States, the one that everybody thinks of when they think hate group. So I was asked by the mayor to craft a resolution regarding this issue, and I've presented that to you.
Okay, I will read the resolution, but before I do, does anybody on the council have any comments or statements or anything? Now is your time. Speak up. You go.
Well, okay, I guess it don't matter when. So what, this resolution, what would be the strength of this resolution? I mean, what direction would that send to hate groups?
It doesn't have the force of law. It's a resolution. It can't prohibit it from taking place. There's nothing really that can prohibit a group of people who are peaceably assembled speaking. If there's a problem, law enforcement in whatever jurisdiction this is taking place in can take care of this. But this is a statement of the city council opposing this event.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Harris? Yes, sir.
And obviously, we want to put KKK church or whatever they call themselves. Is it just the KKK?
The Church of the KKK.
Yeah, that. And I'm reading in there too, and I read this. So I looked at Southern Poverty Law Center.
Mm-hmm.
They're like the go-to of terrorist or state soil terrorist groups, hate groups, groups that are bigotry, anti-Semitic,
Correct.
anti-LGBTQ, whatever. Can we not take that whole group of all these different hate groups to show a unity within our, I mean, there's obviously anti-Semitic groups that are several different colors of people. They just don't like Jewish people.
Sure.
And I don't want them here. And I don't want the KKK here either. Don't get me wrong. We don't want
Right.
any of them here. But can we generalize a little bit and say, if you're on this list, we don't really want you here. We don't want you.
Well, certainly that's at the pleasure of the council, and I can draft something that is more wide-ranging.
Because if it's not the KKK, what if it's what's the other
Right,
one?
well,
White
and I
supremacist
think
stuff.
we were responding in this instance to the advertisement of a specific event.
Right.
But, I mean, certainly if the council wants to do something more wide-ranging than this, I'm happy to draft that.
I'm happy to vote for this one tonight, but I'd also like another one that just says, if you're on the Southern Poverty Law, or if y'all want to change it tonight, I'll do whatever. But if you're in that group of, because there's a bunch of them, I've read through them. Some of them, a lot of people really don't even know are hate groups. We don't, in my opinion, need to stand up just to one. We need to stand up to all of them.
Yeah. I think we should do what we always do, and that's address the issue at hand right now. As you said, this is this event is scheduled here. Well, they're saying Paris, Texas. I don't think it's necessarily
Correct.
going to be in the city limits, but however, this is what's present at the time. And I think we need to send a strong message to this group which is, as we all agree, is one of the most, disrespected groups in the world. I mean, they disrespected her. So it's a group that nobody, the majority of the people are not in favor of, I guess,
Correct.
for the lack of a better term. So I think we should send this strong message today to this group.
Well, and I think too that your willingness to do it with respect to this group with this event indicates your lack of tolerance for like groups and like types of speech in the future. I mean, if you're willing to do that on this one, you're probably willing to do it for the next one. I think it sends a signal, just generally speaking, that you're against bigotry of any kind, you're against hate speech, you're against hate groups, and you're particularly against them coming here.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know if I can discuss this, but I'll say it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can stop me if I can't say it. But I think we need to, as a city, need to stay on top of this. The departments need to stay on top of it. If there's anything, any laws change, anything that we can do to keep these, some of the things that they're doing, if it's illegal, we need to stay on top of it,
Sure.
the legality of it, to stop it before it happens, or if it does happen, hold people accountable if it's against the law.
Right.
But I understand with all, to Mr. Pilgrim's point, with all groups, if some get to speak or hold events within sometimes these groups fit in that same category. But I think we need to send a strong message to the number one guy, for number one club or whatever they are, church, that we're not going to tolerate this, and we don't want it here in Paris, Texas, and don't use our name, because we have enough negativity all over the United States and now all over the world that we don't need anymore.
Well, and I thought it was important too that, it's not even in our jurisdiction. Don't say it's in our jurisdiction. That's
Right.
besmirching our name
Right.
without cause.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments?
I just think collectively, it's important for us to be one voice on this, on the council. And I think the resolutions is a starting point to show the city that we don't want them here, and we disavow them completely, but we have to start somewhere. So the resolution is what we're doing, is how we're gonna have our voice on it, and then, like Mr. Garrett said here, and we'll address it as it happens at any other time if something else comes up in reference to hate groups.
Okay. So y'all have all read the resolution. I'll entertain a motion at this point for the council to pass this resolution.
Well, I'll make the motion that we pass the resolution regarding the White Unity Conference scheduled for October 9th, 2021.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor? Okay, and I will read the resolution that we just passed. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Paris, Texas, with respect to planned Church of the Ku Klux Klan White Unity Conference, making other findings and provisions related to the subject and declaring an effective date. Whereas the City Council has become aware of a, quote, White Unity Conference, unquote, allegedly planned by the Church of the Ku Klux Klan for October 9th, 2021 on private property outside the city limits, and whereas the online advertisement for said conference states that it will be held in, quote, Paris, Texas, unquote, which according to reports in the media is untrue. And whereas said advertisement states that, quote, all pro-white patriot organizations welcomed, unquote. And whereas according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, the KKK and groups affiliated therewith, quote, with its history of violence, is the oldest and most infamous of American hate groups. Although Black Americans have typically been the Klan's primary target, it also has attacked Jews, immigrants, members of the LGBTQ community, and until recently Catholics, unquote. And whereas the City Council is proud of the diversity of the residents of the city, and the city has proudly participated in diversity-related community events, and whereas the City Council of Paris, Texas does not condone hate groups or bigotry of any kind, and whereas the City Council condemns the use of the name, quote, Paris, Texas, unquote, in connection with the, quote, White Unity Conference, unquote, as being untrue and as besmirching the name of the city. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Paris, Texas, that Section 1, the findings set out in the preamble to this resolution are hereby in all things approved. Section 2, the City Council disapproves of the, quote, White Unity Conference, unquote, allegedly scheduled by the Church of the Ku Klux Klan for October 9th, 2021, to be held outside the city limits on private property. Section 3, the City of Paris does not condone hate groups or bigotry of any kind. And Section 4, the City Council hereby condemns the use of the name Paris, Texas in promotional materials for said conference, and hereby requests that organizers remove that name from said materials. Section 5, this resolution shall become effective from and after the date of passage, February 8th, 2021. That's what we just voted on. Okay. Item number 18, receive presentation, discuss, and provide direction to staff regarding the Property Assessed Clean Energy Act, PACE Act, and Paris Lakes. You got this one?
I do, and beware a lawyer with a PowerPoint. But my PowerPoint is short. It is for PACE financing, which I'm sure you've all heard of and know everything about, as I did when someone called me about it from Paris Lakes. What is PACE financing? PACE financing is property assessed clean energy financing. That's the act that is in 399 of the Texas Local Government Code. It's an alternative to traditional financing, which, typically is a mortgage. They put a mortgage lien on the property, but depending on how secure your lien is, depends on where you are in the pecking order. PACE financing, on the other hand, is secured by a lien, an assessment that's like a tax assessment, secured by a lien that is like a tax lien directly on the property, so that a foreclosure of a mortgage won't extinguish the lien. It's a senior priority lien, so it is more attractive to lenders because it is a more secure lien. What it's for is improvements to property that are for energy efficiency, water conservation, that sort of thing. It makes it possible for commercial and industrial property owners to obtain low-cost and long-term financing to improve the energy efficiency of their properties. And we're talking about improvements like energy-efficient HVAC systems, that sort of thing. It would not apply to, in this instance, Paris Lake is going to build a hospital. It would not apply to the entire hospital building. It would be to those parts of the hospital building that are going to lead to energy efficiencies and water conservation. The idea for the property owner, which is what makes it attractive, is theoretically, if you're doing it all right, the energy savings and the savings on utility bills are going to be greater than what the assessments to be paid every year. So it gives them some cash flow benefits as well. How does it work? I kind of already jumped the gun on that. It's a senior priority lien. It's enforceable like a tax lien. That would be the governmental body would bring a motion for a suit for foreclosure of that assessment lien, and that's how that's enforced. But it's designed to be such that the governmental entity can pass on costs to the property owner. So it's designed so that there's no cost or risk. It's risk-free to the property or to the governmental entity. How does a local government set up a PACE program? There are some statutory requirements. I've got those listed out there. First of all, you've got to come up with a public PACE report that has certain statutory requirements in it that gives the public the ability to know what the PACE program is and the components of the PACE program. That has to be posted on the website and available for public inspection. The City Council would then pass a resolution of intent to create a PACE program at a separate meeting from that, because that first resolution has to set a time and date for a public hearing. At another meeting, you would have that public hearing for the public to come and comment on either report or the program in general, just like any other public hearing. And then you have to do a resolution to establish the program. Once the framework is established, the program is then handled administratively in terms of people applying to be part of the program. The city council's action is done with the establishment of the program. It's then run administratively. You can administer it 3 different ways the statute allows for. One is the governmental entity can administer itself and pass along those costs associated with that. You can hire a third-party administrator. You can go in with other governments. There's an organization, a nonprofit called the Texas PACE Authority that we've learned today actually is doing some third-party administrations for people that is of no cost to the governmental entity. Phase 3 is the completion of the financing, and the owner contract is the main document associated with that. That's the a contract between the governmental entity and the borrower that sets forth the terms of the assessment. You have the borrower has to get the consent of any prior mortgage holders. They've got 30 days to get that done, and that has to be in writing. Once that's obtained and that agreement is done between the owner and the governmental body, that creates that assessment, and that's filed of record with in the property records of the county clerk's office. So that's just like a tax lien would be. There's a contract between the property owner and the lender. That's a big important piece of the pie, particularly in a case where you're doing your own administration and you want to farm out certain areas of the administration, such as settlement of or service of the loan. You know, gosh, the city of Paris doesn't want to be responsible for sending out a tax assessment every year, but you can put that off on the lender. So you can apportion responsibilities through these contracts. And then at the end, the project is reviewed. The owner has to get a third-party reviewer with no financial interest to review the program to see that the improvements were what they were supposed to be and that they were energy saving and everything that they were supposed to be.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
I've got a question. So
Sure.
who actually physically loans the money for these projects? Is it the federal government?
A third-party commercial lender.
A commercial lender does it under the PACE program?
Right. And there's another option as well. The government could do it, could sell bonds to do it, but nobody's asked us to do that.
So Mayor and Council, I've met with these folks a year ago, and we've been trying to figure out, we were going to do it through the county. It didn't work that we could get it through the county to get this approved. They've done it in some other communities, but basically the precipice is another tool for Paris Lakes, Campbell Soup, Paris Regional, anybody that even an existing building, usually it's worked on existing buildings. So if you've got an older building that has old lighting, old energy efficient windows, or if there's a way that they could add solar panels on their building, or so, a normal bank will only loan you for about 5-year terms on those. This allows private financing to loan. They can go out 20 years on some of this stuff, but the way that they test their model, the way I understand it, is they go in and they say, okay, well, if we're going to put these solar panels on this building, the energy savings on these solar panels have to outweigh the cost in the 20-year cycle that they use them. And they're using that in a lot of areas. Well, the Paris Lakes obviously is looking at building a hospital, and they're going to do energy efficient window. And, you know, they could put different light bulbs in and save $10,000 a month or whatever those numbers are. I'm making up numbers, but that's the way it was brought to me. Originally, this deal was, so I gave it to Grayson. Grayson and Stephanie have been working diligently on it, and I'm glad we're finally seeing it here. But this is just a tool that our city, if somebody has a downtown building or has a huge business that they're putting in, or if they're adding on, is a tool for all of our small business as well as big business guys. Usually it's going to be probably some big business because these commercial lenders, the margins are pretty tight in these notes as it is. I mean, it's Like I say, it's usually a pretty scaled project, but really neat object that we can use, and we have to do some kind of, and that's what I was interested in hearing, is what we have to do as far as how do we be able to, okay, here you go.
Right, and I hope I did that with those 4 steps that you have to
Yeah.
do, that report and the 2 resolutions and the public hearing is really council's involvement. I mean, staff would prepare the report, but the 2 resolutions and the public hearing are council's contributions to that, besides telling us that you're interested in us going ahead. There are different ways to do this. You can do it large, you can do it small. Options I put in the memo is to do kind of a pilot program with the Paris Lakes to see how we like that. And if we want to expand it after that, we can scale it up. We could start out with a bigger program. You can do any number of different geographical areas within the city, or you could do the whole city. It just has to be within the city limits. We can do that. We'll need some more help if we're going to start up a bigger one like that. Or you can tell us that this is not attractive to you at all, which is why we're bringing it to you now before we started work on an actual program.
So, Stephanie, I'm sure I missed it during the presentation, but what is what is our ownership, and then what is the advantage to the city?
The advantage to the city is really in economic development. It helps different private and commercial and industrial property owners get these cost savings, which, because their energy efficiencies and water conservation efficiencies are good for everybody, good for the world, basically. But it's really something that's kind of no skin off our nose, that helps folks. This is a voluntary program. They're bearing the brunt of it and the cost of it. We can provide some administrative stuff, but the main thing from our standpoint is it's not, there's no financial risk to us, and it's a good economic development tool that is very rarely utilized. I think what the Texas Pace Authority told me this afternoon is they're aware of in 54 places in Texas. Well, Texas is big. That's not many places.
So did they say why? Why aren't more cities or municipalities using this program or adopting it?
Well, it can be kind of complicated. What I have distilled for you in this lovely PowerPoint today is the Reader's Digest version of the Reader's Digest version, if you will, which is a reference my children wouldn't understand. But I condensed it quite a lot. Grayson and I have been reading through stacks of paper like this to kind of get it down to, for one, where we could understand it, and one, a way that we thought we could present it to you that didn't require 2 hours and a chalkboard and laser pointers. So it's kind of scary to look at when you get this thing that's called Pace in a Box, and the type is about this big, and lots and lots of things in it that they extract. This is this Texas Pace Authority that they've extrapolated from the statute that's this big. So they've gone above and beyond, I think, what the statute actually requires. So there's more ways to go about this than just the Texas Pace in a Box that the Texas Pace Authority has done. But you look at that Pace in a Box and it's kind of intimidating.
Stephanie, do we have a feel if anybody else in this community would be willing and eager to use this program? It seems to me, I'm in favor of it. It seems to me we either go with the pilot program just for Paris Lakes, or if we think there are other businesses that could take advantage of this, should we go ahead and jump right in with the wider thing?
I don't have a feel for that right now, but that's because nobody knows about it.
Yeah. Clayton, you got a feel for that?
So whenever there's a fellow by the name of Rob Phillips, he's kind of a broker in sense of he's helping with the Paris Lakes project, and I'm familiar with a couple of the investors in that, and they come to me and they said, "You're on city council. Hey, can you help us?" And at first, me and Judge Bell talked about it at the county level, and I said, I don't, and he doesn't have, first of all, he's just gotten his job last year, and we're in the middle of COVID and carrying on. So I told him, I said, why don't we carry it to the city side and let, once Grayson got here and got his feet on the ground, we let Grayson kind of run with it. It's not a program for everybody, and their test, I guess you'd say, or their test subject for saying a lot of their stuff doesn't pass. They say, okay, you want to loan $10,000 on this building, put these solar panels on. They're pretty stringent on how their deal works, but the ones that do work are phenomenal. I can't tell you a number off the top of my head what this Paris Lakes deal is. It's going to be substantial money, and could possibly be, in my opinion, some yes or no's for some large companies that could be here one of these days, especially that one out there. Because of the energy efficiency type stuff that we're looking at nowadays. Solar panels are a big deal. Windmills are a big deal. 25% of our energy in the state of Texas is made from our electricity that we use is 25% now, and I didn't know it was that much, is from a windmill or a solar panel, which is huge. And so that's, if they can save $2 million on a build on a project, or renovating an older building, and we've got a lot of older buildings, big, small, and everything. So in my opinion, it's not in every community because it's not well known. When they brought it to me, I mean, we study the commercial real estate business. That's what we do for a living. And I had seen it. I had seen PACE. Nobody had ever explained it to me. Nobody had sat down. And it, like she said, the PACE in the box thing, don't go look at that because it'll blow your mind.
Did it scare you too?
I was like, ugh, this sounds really. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're saying we're a community that we can facilitate that. It's just another tool on the belt of all the other EDC tools that we have. It's not an EDC necessarily a function, but it's a function of a bank being able to loan money on certain items for an upfit of a building or a business that we don't have now. In my opinion, you're going to do very few of them because of the criteria that they have to meet in order to meet the criteria that the legislature put in on this PACE financing.
And Paris Lakes already has a financer, so they're kind of waiting on us. They think they've got a good deal. It's a good investment.
Like I say, I'm on board with it for them for sure, but the question is, in my mind, is do we want to do a little bit broader? Will there be any administrative costs to the city if we do the broader aspect of it?
We're supposed to pass that on.
But I mean, if we don't have any clients, we can't pass it on to them.
Right. The PACE Authority can administer that for us if we have a bigger program. But if we're looking at Paris Lakes, we're looking at doing that in-house.
I mean, I'd be for the wider program it sounds like it's yet another tool that might be something that.
Well, we could do this project and say, gosh, that worked great. And we want to make that bigger.
Let's do the
your
pilot.
preference to do the pilot would be your preference.
That's my preference.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
You're in the trenches. I'm not. So I'll
do
whatever. But,
I think Mr. Path is, if we're going to do it, let's just do it. Let's do the big thing. But I think it's easier to do on a limited basis to begin with.
Well, I'm in favor of doing the pilot program then and revisiting it and seeing how well it works out. And if anybody else expresses an interest in it, this may give a little publicity to it. Then we could bring it right back to the council and authorize a larger project at that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and this was just to provide direction to staff, so it's not an action item, but that's what I'm hearing is that you're interested in doing a pilot program.
I have a couple questions. Can this be combined with other economic incentives that we offer? Can it be combined, or is it just you pick this, or you pick this, or you pick that?
Well, there's no reason that they couldn't say, yeah, we want to do a PACE financing. We'll say, okay, we can help you with that, because it's not our money. And, okay, what else under our menu of economic development incentives can be helpful to you? Yeah, it's no either or.
Okay. And, you're, if I'm hearing you correctly, you'd prefer that we picked option one, where we limit it just to the Paris Lakes project, to see if we like it and if it runs well, and then we can offer it to other areas or expand it perhaps. What's the timeline that you think before we can make a decision to expand? How long is it going to take?
I don't know that precisely. I'm getting a lot of calls from the attorney from the lender. And he was going to call me again tomorrow or Wednesday, and we were going to kind of get a timetable set up for when we thought we could get this done. I'm thinking a couple of months. Now,
Okay.
whether or not that's enough time to say we want to do it again, but it'll certainly give us enough experience to know how difficult it is to put together.
I gotcha.
Well, I'm excited that there's some interest in having energy saving in any building in Paris. And I would think as a business, it's definitely to your advantage because you cut your expenses monthly on utilities or water, whatever. So I think it's a great idea. And I think if you want us to start with option one, I would go with your advice.
And that's my preference, but again, we can do whatever you guys want to do.
Will that get Paris Lakes a little quicker?
I think so. I'm pretty darn sure so.
What's the consensus of the council on this?
So, Mr. Pilgrim, you've been involved in it, so what would you recommend? I know she's going to have to do it.
She's boots on the ground. That's what I'm saying. It is a really cool piece of like I say that we can add to it. I don't want to overload. I want to make sure that we take care of these folks as quick as we can because they have waited patiently with us, and I want Ms. Harris to be able. And let's do the pilot and say, hey, this is our model, and then let's don't let any grass grow under our feet on this thing. I think it's something we need to have out there. And it's something that, is Maureen still here, that she can use as she's not going to be able to offer it, but she's going to be able to tell them, hey, we've got PACE financing as well. It's something that we can offer on our EDC side, which is a huge help.
Sounds good to me.
I would
I just
support
wanna make
it
sure
so
that
that we can make
the
sure that
opportunity-
it can be expanded.
The opportunity is given to other geographic areas as well, and not just the Paris Lakes project.
Yeah, I want the whole city, the whole deal.
Well, and I think that's what we're talking about is seeing how it works, getting our feet wet with it, so to speak, and then figuring out, okay, this is great, we need to expand this to everybody, or this is really
So if
awful.
it doesn't work, what happens then?
Well, we don't have to participate in it again. But that's something that comes to you guys. That's not me making that decision. I think it's going to be great and you're going to want to expand it. But
I'd like to do whatever will help to Paris Lakes as quickly as possible, but I'm also strongly in favor of expanding it citywide whenever we possibly can. I don't want to, I honestly wouldn't even want to wait until we see how it works with Paris Lakes. I'd like to get going with Paris Lakes, and as soon as we get the paperwork done for that, expand it for the rest of the city, and
okay, we can
that'd
do
be my
that.
feeling, because I'd like to do that, but
Can we
but I don't want to
have
delay.
a resolution by next council meeting?
We got to do that report. So I would think certainly by 2 council meetings, but maybe by next council meeting.
Perfect.
All right, is that the consensus of the council then? This isn't an action item, so we don't have to vote on it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 19, convening the executive session pursuant to section 551.087 of the Texas Government Code to discuss or deliberate regarding commercial or financial information the governmental body has received from a business prospect that the governmental body seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in or near the territory of the governmental body, and with which the governmental body is conducting economic development negotiations, or 2, to deliberate the offer of financial or other incentive to a business prospect described by subdivision 1 as follows: First National Bank Building and associated properties. B, section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the governmental body in negotiations with a third person. It is now 6:54. We're going into executive. All right, let's get out of here. All right, we're all back. It's 7:38. We're out of executive session. We had a discussion about the First National Bank building and that potential economic development discussions. No action was taken. We're now item number 20, let's see, 21, any future events anyone wishes to discuss or bring up for possible. All right, with none there, we'll motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Aye.